Hi, I'm Kelly Gahn. Welcome to Outdoor Family Adventures, the program that leads families just like yours on exciting journeys through the great outdoors. Now imagine being stranded in the middle of nowhere with no shelter, no help, and no means of communication. How long do you think you'd last in the wilderness? Well, that's the challenge facing our family today as we test their survival skills at Erie Bluffs State Park. The quiet beauty, old-growth trees, and stunning cliffs of Erie Bluffs State Park make it easy for visitors and for our family of would-be survivalists to believe that they are in the middle of nowhere, rather than just a few steps from the community of Lake City, Pennsylvania. Governor Ed Rendell named Erie Bluffs a state park in June of 2004, making this the newest state park in the Commonwealth and the only new state park added in the past 20 years. Named for its breathtaking views of the lake, Erie Bluffs State Park is home to nearly 1 full mile of undeveloped Lake Erie shoreline, sparkling at the foot of the park's 90-foot-high cliffs. These bluffs offer a uniquely stunning perspective on the majesty of this great lake. While the bluffs might offer the most visually obvious reason for this area's induction to the state park system, its geological and biological attributes are not without due credit. Although Erie Bluffs State Park usually offers a relaxing escape from everyday life, today promises to be no walk in the park for our family, as they must focus on the necessities of surviving rather than the luxuries of sightseeing. So what will our family do for shelter, water, food? To give our family some guidance on today's adventure, we signed them up for a class in wilderness survival, taught by an expert within our own state park system.
If you find yourself in a survival situation, you always want to stop, and that stands for sit, think, observe, and plan. The first training session was really just an introduction to kind of the basics of survival. You know, you need to sit, think, observe, plan, kind of get you into the mental mindset to be prepared to survive in the outdoors. There's a rule of threes in survival, and the rule of threes states that in a certain period of time you're going to need X factor. So in 3 minutes, you're going to need air, clean air. And you need to find some sort of a shelter within about 3 hours. No matter what type of elements you're in, even if it's a nice sunny day in the summertime in a temperate forest, something might happen at night. There might be weather that comes your way that you're not prepared for. So you really need to think about shelter next. Within about 3 days, you're probably going to be in need of water. And that depends on, of course, how hydrated you were beforehand, but we can survive for a little while without water, but it needs to be clean water within about 3 days. We are in northwestern Pennsylvania, and because of that, there may be ticks around, so we want to take all the precautions that we can so we don't run into any problems later. The best thing that you can do about ticks is to take preventative measures. So we had the family and all of us take our socks and put them over our pants. And we like to wear white socks when we do that, because if we did get a tick that were to start crawling on us, then we could see it whenever it was on the white socks. So some pretty simple techniques that will help you in your survival situation. That was the first training session, and it was pretty brief, but wanted to make sure they had the mental preparedness to go in and do the rest of the survival today.
Now it's time to meet our family of Robinson Carusos. Are they prepared for the life and death challenges that lie ahead? Let's watch and see.
It's a different family, the 3 generations here. My mother's always up for anything, and the kids know that. So if we have a party at one of the houses, you know, they're always wanting to come and share things with my mother.
Like my grandma went to see me play some of her basketball games. My uncles and stuff, they come to my baseball games.
Those are the kind of things that are really nice to be able to experience with your children, and I think maybe it's even more fun to experience it with your grandchildren.
Family is very important to us, to both Bob and I, and our families as well, our extended families. It's good to have support and to know that you're loved unconditionally.
What makes Leah is that she is a very caring person. She's always concerned about the rest of us.
Leah is really nice, cool, and old. Older than my dad.
My mom's very outgoing, likes to try new things, different things.
Matt is competitive. He likes the challenge. He, of course, loves to win.
Bobby's very generous with his time and to his kids. He's a good dad.
My dad taught me how to ride a lawnmower, and when he did that, it would make me really happy.
It's nice to have children because you can teach them things and show them things and let them experience things with you.
Family's just always there for you.
So how long can human beings survive in the wilderness without shelter, water, or food? We checked in with an outdoor family adventure sports doctor for some vital information on the physical well-being of our family during their impending survival situation.
There's just a certain few common sense survival tips that are important that you can obtain through most survival courses. Certainly the proper nutrition the night before, the good night's sleep, a good breakfast, hydrate yourself appropriately. I would want, if I went out to the bluffs or out to some exposed area, I'd want to make sure I had some source of fuel for both myself and for starting a fire. I'd want some chocolate bars or some form of sugar or light, high energy substance that if you got hungry or if you got separated from a group, you might be able to survive for 24 hours or so.
Forget that we're actually just steps from civilization and prepared to get stranded in the wilderness. Ready or not, it's time to get lost.
Remember the sit, think, observe, plan.
No survival skills. Last time I did anything, would be when we were kids. We had woods behind our house and messed around.
It can be fun and it can be a very useful skill.
After being instructed, it fell into place for all of us.
I can't remember what she said.
Of course, you need to sustain yourself and keep your energy up.
The principle was figure out what you're going to do, plan for the day, to make sure that you're not expending your energy or overreacting or just in a panic because you're alone.
We're going to start out with what is really one of the most important things after air, which is shelter. Usually, I don't give folks a lot of instruction before we do the shelter building because it seems like shelter building is almost one of those innate things that people can grasp onto right away. All right, are you guys ready for your first challenge?
Sure are, yeah.
All right, well, I have it right here.
Okay. The Shelter Building Challenge. This is a family challenge. Shelter is the second most important of your survival skills. Use your head and anything else you can find to build a shelter for your family.
So we just sent them out.
We only had 30 minutes to do this.
And go.
I know at the beginning we thought, oh, what do we do?
We divided up to find some area that provided the least amount of work involved to make sure that we were safe from the elements.
And that's why Matt and I were walking for a while up high looking for something. And after we spent a couple minutes looking and we couldn't find anything, I figured we'd better turn around and go back and see if they had found anything before we wasted any more time.
And we were looking for where to put our shelter, but we couldn't find anything.
Did you guys find a good spot?
We found 2 trees that were down, or one tree with 2 branches on, and we built around that.
We were able to take and start using pieces of bark that had fallen off a tree and putting over top to make a roof.
We have to collect some branches or something? I can certainly see that if you really had to build something for survival, you wouldn't certainly try to build it in 30 minutes.
Okay, you have 20 minutes.
So when she kept on telling the time, you felt like you were under the gun, got to work faster.
It just didn't seem like it would happen that quickly.
All right, gang, you have 15 minutes left.
But once we started, then it seemed like it was more attainable.
Everybody was foraging for bark or for tree limbs or whatever.
10 minutes left. I think given a little more time, they would have made it even better. And in general, they did really well. Of course, they didn't 100% pass their tests. You think you're done within time, I think we can go ahead and test out your shelter.
I went in first. I sat in the way back, and everybody fit in.
She wanted to make sure it was sturdy and that we would be protected from the elements.
Does your shelter withstand the weight test? I don't know. No, it's pretty good. It's actually pretty stable. And we'll see if it...
We did have a few holes in it.
I don't know if I would necessarily want to go through a severe thunderstorm underneath it, but for overnight or something, if you just wanted some shelter, it would have lasted.
You've gotten wet enough. I don't want to soak you for the rest of the day, but not too bad, not too bad.
She said we did a pretty good job, and so we were glad to hear that.
Well, why don't you guys come on out? We'll talk about some of the things that you did and how we might be able to improve upon them or what you did really great.
We came out and she gave us a critique.
You guys did a fabulous job.
I don't know if she was blowing smoke up or whatever.
In general, though, one of the first things you do look for whenever you're building a shelter is location. And that's
She mentioned that a higher location, you would be able to probably stay a little bit warmer because of the warm air, that the lower areas would get cooler. We hadn't thought about that at all.
So your up top location may have been better in terms of temperature if you were really worried about it being very cold at night. But this was a pretty good location, not bad at all. How about materials? Any materials that you didn't use that you wish you could have?
Evergreen tree branches.
Yeah, there is a good amount of evergreen here. You can use those. You know, you always want to look to what the animals are doing.
One of the things, I guess, when you're observing, when you're stopping and you're looking around to observe would be to pay attention to where the animals find shelter. And the evergreens, the idea of using the evergreen boughs on the top would have helped too.
A really great suggestion, which, you know, they didn't want to do that today. They didn't want to take live trees down, which was good. Final thing is, where might you, or how might you increase the warmth, I guess, in your shelter?
Build a fire? A fire.
Exactly. Where would you put the fire? What do you think?
Kind of like right here.
Yeah. Why do you think that?
So it can heat up the shelter?
Yeah, you got it. Matt's idea of putting it kind of right where we were standing, basically, was pretty good because it was not too close to the shelter. And we talked about how, you know, if you get too close to the shelter with your fire, it can all go up in flames because it's all pretty dry and good materials for that. So actually some of the wallpaper that they used in their shelter was birch bark, which is very flammable. All right, well, it's just about time to build the fire, so we're going to go do that now.
All right. Okay.
So they got the basics of kind of fire theory, why you build a fire, and the 3 things you need to build a fire. You got the shelter accomplished, but you might not be warm enough in a shelter alone, so you're going to have to build a fire.
She pointed out things that are flammable, more flammable than others, different choices you can make. To start with small bark or something that would light quickly, so you could build upon that.
She told about what you can put on the fire to make it go faster.
Your tinder is what's really going to get you going. It needs to be something that, like I said, will ignite quickly, provide a lot of heat. That birch bark provides a lot of heat immediately, but anything that's going to light quickly will be good tinder.
She did a very good job of explaining to us what kind of materials we needed to gather, what were the 3 components were be to have the air, to have some sort of fuel source, which are our materials, and
they need heat to be applied to them.
She showed us how to start it with a magnesium stick and a knife blade.
If you have one of these guys, which is a magnesium strike stick, this whole chunk, the magnesium strike sticks have magnesium, a whole chunk of magnesium on one side, which is very flammable. So what you do is you just take your pocket knife and make some shavings of that magnesium. And this is the striking edge. You're going to strike that with your knife. It's going to spark. You're going to start a fire.
None of us had ever started a fire that way before, so it was kind of neat that we were able to do that.
All right, now you've learned a little bit about fire building. Are you ready for the fire building challenge?
Yeah, ready. We are.
All right, well, here it is.
Fire building challenge. This is a team challenge. Prometheus stole his fire from Zeus. You'll have to make your own. Each team must build a fire. Be the first team to release your balloons.
You had to make a fire and there was this rope with 2 balloons attached, and you had to like break the rope so the balloons would go longer.
So it says it's a team challenge. What are the teams going to be?
Boys versus girls.
Oh, boys versus girls. All right, well, that's what it is then.
Matt wanted to have boys against girls, which is the way he always wants it to be, so.
Leah and I were together, and we went about trying to gather a lot of our materials first.
They were preparing their materials. They were staging their materials. before they started their fire?
Better to go home a winner.
My strategy was to start out with the tinder and get that going and try to have enough of it nearby so as soon as you got the fire started you could continue putting some on.
It was disconcerting to see that the other team was getting their fire started before us.
We had ours started at first, but then it went out.
They didn't have all the materials prepared, so they didn't have a lot of things to throw onto the fire and keep it going.
So that gave us hope that we could catch up, and we kept on persevering.
So the second time I used some leaves. The dry leaves seemed to go up pretty good, and they added some quick heat to it.
It was interesting to see that they were taking some of the information we talked about starting really small with tinder. So I noticed both groups were peeling the corn husk and making it really fine and getting some really tiny things that were going to burn pretty quickly. Looks like the red team's got a nice little teepee going here.
Well, I was trying not to focus on them. I did glance over at one point when somebody had mentioned that we were neck and neck.
What happened?
I think I skipped on this.
Oh, way to go.
No, I think it let it go.
No, I think it went.
Their fire didn't seem to be quite as high as ours, but somehow their balloon thing broke.
Kind of happened all of a sudden.
I'm sorry.
They cheated.
No. Skill and technique that went up.
My mom thought that she had tripped over it. Everybody said no, she didn't, so we're not sure what happened.
There was cheating? You're kidding. Oh my gosh. No, I thought it was pretty funny when Sue thought that I think she thought she knocked the balloon loose.
Ours eventually did melt a piece of fishing line and let the wires, the balloons go up in the air.
There was no cheating, at least not that I perceived. I guess I could be a little biased, but I think they did pretty well.
I'm sorry.
And then when we got actually into the woods where she found some plants, that was pretty much all the rest of it was talking about plants that you can eat.
She was pointing out vegetation that we could eat, which was pretty interesting.
Anybody know what it is? This is a violet. And the leaves of the violet are edible, as well as the flower petals.
Although I've seen them used as decoration on cakes and that, I really didn't know that they were that edible. And she was explaining also to us that the leaves are very nutritious and a lot of vitamin C.
And there's a couple other things around here that are edible as well.
We saw some leeks.
And if we dig down a little ways, there are a couple different parts of the plant you can eat.
Showed you a test about how you can determine whether something is a plant that you can eat. There's a couple different steps that you would go through.
We did the universal edibility test with garlic mustard, which is an invasive species, which means it's not meant to be growing here. Now it is, and it's kind of taken over the habitat of native plants. So it's a good one to do the test on because A, we know it's edible, and B, it's invasive. So there's no worries about picking it or eating it or anything like that. We actually want people to come out and pick it.
I thought that was really interesting, that there's actually a slow and methodic way to do that.
You had to rub it on your skin and see if you were allergic, and then put it on your lip.
Okay. So you would wait for a while with that on your lip. You would want to wait to see if that's going to give you any kind of reaction on your lip.
And then you lay it on your tongue.
And you do that for a good long while.
And then you were to take a little piece of it and try chewing it. Not swallowing it, but just chewing it to see if you had any reaction.
So you don't want to drink anything or eat anything or do anything else while you're doing this test, because it's important that you gauge the reaction just based on this one little thing that you were eating.
What you're supposed to do is, if you're going to eat it raw, then you should do this test with it raw. If you're going to eat it in a salad and you're going to boil it or something first, then you want to boil it and then do this test. You want to do the test the same way that you're going to eat the item.
I don't ever suggest doing this if you're not in a survival situation. You don't want to get yourself in trouble unnecessarily. But if you are in that situation, you have something to fall back on. Are you ready for your third and final challenge?
Yep, we're ready.
All right, let's see what it is.
Survival Quiz Challenge. This is an individual challenge. One of your most important survival skills is creative thinking. Rank the items on the tables in order of importance to your survival.
The plane and the pilot, they go down. So they have time to get just a few items from the plane, and they're going to have to drag these items away from the shoreline, get inland somewhere.
We had several items on the tables, and we had numbers, and we were to rank them.
We were the sole survivors, and we could only quickly gather certain items from the plane and use it for our survival.
Ready, set, go.
Everyone was moving, and you had to figure out which one was which.
And I remember thinking when she was telling us we were going to have to do this, I quickly in my mind kept trying to come up with number 1 and 2 in my mind. And then after that, it was kind of like, okay, you know, quickly decide.
You had to think fast and to know some of that right off the top of your head.
I kind of was looking at them beforehand, and I kind of had an idea in my head as to what I thought was important.
There were several of them you just totally guessed.
All right, and stop. They didn't do too badly with the scenario and with the challenge. Let's take a look at how everybody ranked each item. Actually, they ranked the map and the compass really high. Let's see who else ranked the compass high. They should be ranked very low because most people don't know what to do with them. But who ranked whiskey number 2?
I thought that, I thought because it was flammable, I thought if all else fails, I'll put it in the lighter and I can somehow start a fire.
I knew it! I knew it!
And a nightcap if you really need. Yeah, because if you're sleeping on the ground.
Seriously though, alcohol can obviously dilute blood vessels in it, and it makes you feel warmer than you really are, so people are more prone to frostbite that way. Of course, you're not thinking clearly, so it's definitely a hindrance to survival.
And a Crisco can that I had as next to the bottom ended up to be rank up real high.
One of the things that you could do with this is you could use it for staying warm, well, at least preventing frostbite.
The can could be used for holding water or holding anything that you needed to hold it. The bottom of the can was reflective, so you could use it for signaling someone or possibly, you know, get enough heat coming off of that you could start a fire.
Which person was closest to the actual ranking on the list?
Maybe with age comes wisdom or something like that.
And the one with the most close answers, or the most right-on answers.
I don't want to say it's a prize, but she apparently is older and wiser.
Well, I won, naturally. There again, I think probably luck. But I shouldn't say that. I should say because she educated me very well during the day. I listened to what she said, and I thought, oh, okay, these are some of the things she talked about, so grab those.
Have you ever been stranded with your family? Maybe it was a flat tire on a highway, or maybe a storm ruined your plans and left you marooned in your own home. As today's adventure proves, being stranded with your family is not always a bad thing. Is your family ready for an adventure? If so, visit our website. Hope to see you next time on Outdoor Family Adventures.
That causes them,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Looking at all the different plants and everything.
Everything through the whole day was, I mean, there's some stuff that you already kind of knew, but there was a lot of stuff that she was telling you that, you know, could come back to help you at some point in time. It was enjoyable. It was a learning experience, which I figured it would be going into it. I didn't think it was going to be as fun as paintball.
But this is a different kind of fun. They were both fun, but it was good to come out and spend the day together.
What the family did today was really kind of a combination of a number of different courses or classes that we do in survival out here at Erie Bluffs and at Presque Isle. So these are things that folks can come out and do as a family. It's a really fun, almost like a team building activity that families can do together.
You know, it's always fun when you get to spend time with your family, you know, no matter where. And then if you can do it outdoors when you have a beautiful day like this, you know. I suppose if it was raining, maybe we wouldn't have been such a happy bunch of people, but because the weather was great, you know, it's just an ideal day to spend with your family. And we learned something and had a good time doing it.
Yeah, there's And you're not so sure what you think of it either, are you?
Funding for Outdoor Family Adventures has been provided by the Pennsylvania Public Television Network and for nearly 70 years, caring about people has been our pledge. We're Highmark, supporting programs which promote active families. Pennsylvania Travel and Tourism. Active families know there's more to do in Pennsylvania.
St. Vincent Health Center is Erie's first hospital with cardiologist and neonatal intensive care services specializing in neuroscience, cancer and emergency medicine, and physician-based sports medicine.
Edinboro University of Pennsylvania, with locations in Edinboro, Erie, and Meadville, one of the 14 universities in Pennsylvania's state system of higher education. And by the members of this public television station.